today is primary day. I don't know if you're aware of this.
I am.
In
West Virginia and
Maryland. And you guys have been writing about David Trone,
Yes.
who is apparently extremely wealthy. In fact, he has spent more than any individual in terms of self-funding his campaign. Was he a car dealer? What does he do?
No, liquor.
No.
Oh, liquor. Oh, yeah, the liquor guy.
Yeah.
Trone is liquor? Cool.
Trone.
David
Total
Trone
Wines.
is
We've all been to.
the CEO of Total Wine.
Yeah, those mega stores that you'll see.
Longtime
in malls
CEO
for
of Total Wine.
Right.
He tried to buy a seat that ultimately Jamie Raskin won in Maryland. He then went next door and bought a different seat, won that one. He's been a congressman for 2 or 3 terms. And now he's trying to buy the Senate seat with $61 million is so far what he's spent on his campaign, which is a primary against a woman named Angela Also Brooks, who is the Prince George's County executive, but just the county executive, a local official in one county. You have to spend $61 million to beat her.
In a primary.
A primary.
I mean, it's just, you know, this is like AIPAC money. Almost.
And the polls show a tie race going in. So
and
he's
so
a
he
really
was asked,
charismatic figure, as you can tell.
Yesterday he was asked by NBC News, Julie Sirkin, I guess. He was asked, how can you attract black voters? And this is how Trone responds.
The other thing she said to me was that she's hoping to be the first black woman elected to the Senate from the state of Maryland. There are a lot of black voters in the electorate in Maryland, so how are you doing that outreach to get them on your side?
Yeah, what we hear is voters, and we need diversity, and we always support diversity, and I've supported diverse candidates all over the United States. I'm the largest donor to Democrats in the House and the Senate. So I fully support that. But at the end of the day, what we hear from so many diverse voters is we need someone who actually speaks for us, someone who has our values. I went to public school. She went to private school. Someone that lived the life they did. Didn't even have indoor plumbing. We had an outhouse. And I grew up in a family that was destroyed by alcoholism. Destroyed. So we grew up in a tough circumstance, and things weren't easy. But at the end of the day, we became successful. Then said, okay, now I got to give back.
And that's the story that you believe will resonate and connect you with
clearly,
these voters.
We've been the underdog in this race from day one. The establishment was anointing my opponent. But the voters have said, you know, we're going to choose. We're going to choose based on a record. And we have a record of getting it accomplished, not a record of what we might do, but a record of what we've done. I mean, 26 bills passed. Just
all right. I mean, he just keeps going on talking. I don't know that he ever answered the question.
I have so many things to say about this.
Yeah. Well, please do.
Alcoholism destroyed his family, so he became a CEO of an alcohol distributing company.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's reclaiming his trauma, David. How dare you?
It's called giving back.
He wants every family to have the experience that his family did. So
look at what it did for me. Yeah. I'm now a multimillionaire. Billions
somehow
of dollars.
The underdog in this race too.
So drink more. The second thing is he has actually gone further than this, and we wrote about this. Luke Goldstein had a great piece about this. He has described himself as a victim of the criminal justice system, and therefore that allows him to speak to African Americans in a very direct way. And when he says he's a victim of the criminal justice system, he's talking about the fact that his business has been sued multiple times for anti-competitive behavior.
Yes, right. They're in the midst of this FTC thing, right?
A traffic stop.
Yes,
it was. He was defrauding and engaging in tactics that muscled out competitors, and he has actually given to the ACLU, and they named an entire criminal justice program about him. It's called like the David Trone Center or something. And in that, he explains his victimhood at the hands of zealous prosecutors in the criminal justice system.
Oh, my God. Well, we should also say that he's in an attempt to bridge to bridge the divide between him and black voters, he also apologizes for inadvertently using a racial slur.
So
I don't know if you know what that's about.
No, well, I don't actually.
It's a racial slur that starts with a B. That I guess you could kind of
starts with a J. Actually,
he said the word. He was trying to say the word boogaboo, and there's another slur that begins with a J that he accidentally said.
In a congressional hearing when he was talking to Shalonda Young, the highest-ranking black woman in the government.
Okay, so like that colors this instance a little bit more.
His family had alcoholism, so I think it's a wash.
She didn't even have a toilet.
Right. No indoor plumbing, which I'd like maybe a fact check on. I don't really know, but that just feels like the go-to rich guy thing to say to sound relatable. But I mean, like
when was he born?
I know.
Where exactly were they living that they had an outhouse? Where did he grow up?
I don't know, but it's just like he apologized, and maybe he accidentally said a word that he didn't know what he was saying. But it does, I would say, color those comments from a few months ago a little bit more when he's asked by a reporter how he can appeal to black voters, and he says, I didn't have outdoor plumbing, and my family was ravaged by alcoholism.
By the way, when you're talking about Prince George's County, when you're talking about Maryland, Prince George's County is the home of the black middle and upper middle class. It is not necessarily relatable to say, look, I'm poor like you, or I was poor like you. I may be a multi-billionaire now.
He's from Potomac, right?
Yeah, but he's 68.
Or he
grew up on a 200-acre farm in Pennsylvania, and they didn't have plumbing? He's 68.
Point
Why
being,
do I find that hard to believe?
I mean, I'll be honest.
It's relatable to the kind of voters that are in Maryland. It's actually a little bit insulting, right?
Yes.
You want me to relate to black people? I'm dirt poor too.
Did he say he didn't have indoor plumbing, or did he say that he also had outdoor plumbing?
He said he didn't have indoor plumbing. I mean,
no,
maybe they have a really nice toilet.
Indoor plumbing.
Interesting. But as you're saying, David, like I guess where he's from, or that Potomac area, is a wealthy suburb of Washington, D.C.
The district he's from is an incredibly wealthy area.
And it's
George's County, which is where his opponent is from, is a established middle class African American area.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that he has, his association is, you say black voter, I say poor person. That's basically it. And
which, yes, I mean, I think the idea that comment was a slip of the tongue. With the more you hear from this guy,
right.
Also, you guys remember John Delaney, the presidential candidate? From that was his prior district. Another rich psycho with a penchant for weird.
Delaney's wife is running for Trone's seat.
That's right. I did see that this morning.
Wow, only the best people. Could John Delaney have beaten Trump? I mean, you've said before that Mick Mulvaney could have beaten Trump. Could John Delaney have
Martin
beaten
O'Malley.
Trump? Or Martin O'Malley. What did I say? Mick Mulvaney.
Martin O'Malley could have. John Delaney, I don't know. That was 2020, right? He ran.
Yeah. He's super jacked now.
Oh, he ran in 2020. God, I guess I was confusing him with Jim. What was the other guy's name?
Jim Webb.
Jim Webb.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I guess we will find out the results of this. But if you're in Maryland today, you have an opportunity to vote against David
other
Trone.
Race in Maryland, real quick, that we've also written about that's really interesting is it's the 3rd district. It's John Sarbanes, who's the one of the major proponents of campaign finance reform in Congress, is retiring, and there are really 2 major candidates running against him. And AIPAC actually this is the second largest expenditure that AIPAC has made this year on this one candidate, Sarah Elfreth. And it's kind of like the other race in California, where it doesn't seem like there's any difference
That was the Kim race, right? Andy Kim?
Between the top two candidates. So there's Sarah Elfreth and there's this guy Harry Dunn, who was a Capitol police officer. He wrote a book. He testified before the January 6th Commission. He had the most money in this race, but now with the AIPAC spending, it's equalized. And AIPAC isn't just spending on ads for Sarah Elfreth. They're spending on ground game, like phone bankers, and they've hired organizers to knock on doors and stuff. I've never seen this before with AIPAC, where they're actually hiring the ground game organizers for a campaign. That is very unusual. Why
are they doing this? Like, do you have any sense? Does anybody have a sense? Well, like, it sort of feels like they're just trying to like build a machine and try and figure out like this is a, you know, you've got two candidates, not dramatically different necessarily in their politics, at least in terms of like from AIPAC's perspective.
The best answer I have is that Harry Dunn has made Sarbanes' former agenda on campaign finance reform a big part of his campaign.
Interesting.
And according to him, he said, as soon as I started talking about dark money, AIPAC gave a bunch of money to my opponent. So you can see in sort of a bank shot way that if Harry Dunn gets elected, I mean, I don't think Congress really works this way, but if Harry Dunn gets elected and Harry Dunn somehow passes campaign finance reform that makes it harder for groups like AIPAC to spend the amount of money they're spending, then they would view him as a threat regardless of his stance on Israel. And so that makes kind of the most sense to me, although I think it's like a dumb person's idea of how politics works in some ways. But
I don't think that I think in these type of situations, they're not just trying to take out that one individual. They're trying to signal to every future candidate, this is an area which is you know, the forbidden zone. You don't talk about this. You don't talk about that. And if you do, we're just going to come in and we're going to dump in $20 million into your race.
Yeah, that's true. And so, you know, I think they see an opportunity, since Sarbanes was a standard bearer, to get somebody in who might be more receptive to their idea that we don't have anything that needs to be done on campaign finance reform. Especially because next time we might not give you $4 million, right? So
they lost the Dave Min race, right?
They did lose the Dave Min race, and they may lose this one.
I mean, that's probably part of like what they're doing. They got to go in, they got to start showing some wins to their investors, because
if you wanted to show some wins, this isn't where I would start. I mean, Harry Dunn had a huge lead on this woman in terms of finances.
Well, maybe there's some backroom stuff that we don't know about. I mean, like, there could be assurances that she's publicly denying it, right? That she has kind of any affiliation with AIPAC, but we have no idea. There's the Akilah Lacey's report in The Intercept said there's been some crossover with AIPAC donors and her campaign
we wrote about that. Yeah. I mean, three of her donors were also at that secret meeting for the candidate that's going against Pramila Jayapal's sister. You know, that woman, who's I think named Dexter, shares donors with this Sarah Elfreth in the 3rd District in Maryland. So there's clearly something going on. And the other interesting thing is, so the Oregon race, you might have talked about this on the show, I don't know, about the PAC, this science PAC that is being used to sort of launder AIPAC money.
Yes, I think we've talked about that with Grimm a little bit.
So in this race, that science PAC endorsed Harry Dunn. They said, yeah, we're going to endorse Harry Dunn. However, they're giving $0 to Harry Dunn. And the endorsement happened very late, almost right after Grimm started reporting on that Oregon race. So they're like, hey, let's find some other race that AIPAC's involved in and endorse the other guy, but don't give him any money or anything, just to sort of throw people off the scent. So that's also happening in this race.
Bizarre. Really bizarre. Well, I hope they lose. I mean,
Well, we'll find out.
I like, without knowing anything about the two candidates, the more AIPAC loses, the better, because
David Trone, by the way, was an AIPAC donor when he was in the private sector.
Is he still not? I mean,
well, he doesn't. He now sort of uses his congressional PAC,
shell companies. Yeah, right. Like
what's funny is that he claimed, he used to give tons of money to Republicans. He was a rich guy. He gave money to everybody, right, to make sure his business interests were taken care of. He doesn't do that anymore. But however, his business continues to give money to anti-abortion candidates all over the country to protect his monopoly.
Well, to be fair, there was alcoholism.
We have evidence still pretty much running his business. He says he isn't, but he kind of pretty much is. There's a famous quote that was used. Fight Corporate Monopolies has run some ads in this race, the Senate race against Trone. And there's a famous quote that they use in it that he said while he was a congressman to a supplier of Total Wine. He said something like, "I will execute you." he was mad at the guy. And he said, "I will end you. I will execute you." So he's still kind of in charge of this business that he claims he's not in charge of. That's a monopolist and has been under investigation by states and the government. And that business is still giving money to Republicans, just as he used to do before he was in Congress.
It also sounds like he's murderous in intent. But I mean, to be fair, he lived on a farm that had an outhouse.
I think it was theoretical.
So, all right. Look, I know. Just give us 2 more minutes. We'll do one more clip. I know you got to run.
All right.
You got a lot of appointments, and you want to get down before they stop serving the free breakfast at that.
I already did so. Again, thank you for putting me up for 4 nights in the hotel just for this appearance. It's very
of course. It's classic Majority Report. The way we roll. It's the way we roll.
I mean, we talk about all these other companies and their profligate spending, but somebody's got to look at these books, both sets of books for the Majority Report.